seek out the surgery, we have the surgery. After the surgery, like I said to People Magazine and a couple of other people, is that surgery is not the easy way out. And you guys know that already. You have to change the way you eat, you have to change the way you move, you have to change the way you live, and your relationship with people changes. But you persevere, and when we tell our before and after story, we talk about how we persevere through that. We learn how to eat new foods, we learn how to do new exercise, and things like that. And then the result of all of that is that you lose the weight, you're in the best shape of your life, I feel great, it's wonderful, and it's sort of a happily ever after type story. And I love before and after stories. I read them all the time online, but there's two very important reasons why that's not how I'm going to tell you my story today. One is because, and my friend Pam here is going to raise her eyebrows when I say this, but I'm not that unique. My before and after story sounds like a lot of before and after stories you guys have probably heard before. And so I wanted to be able to share my experience in a way that would have you walk away with something that's really helpful to yourselves in your journey. And I felt like my before and after story was kind of like everybody else's before and after story. But the second reason that that's not exactly how I'm going to tell my story today is because of the fact that when I hear before and after stories, I think, wow, that's awesome, that's great. They changed their lives. But what happened after that? What happened after you lost the weight? 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8, 10 years down the line. What happened? Did you still have those healthy habits that you are exercising today? Did you have any struggles? If you had struggles, how did you deal with those struggles? How did you overcome them? And what happened? And so that's the space where I feel like I am a mini expert of being the life after weight loss surgery, not only life after weight loss surgery, but how badly people can struggle and still come back from it. So that's the way I would like to tell my story today. I call it my After the After story, and my subtitle is One Woman's Story of Losing the Weight, Losing Her Mind, and Regaining Herself. And you guys are about to hear about how all of those things happen, but I just wanted to say that if you are interested in it, if you're like one of those people who loves and craves the before and after story and knowing where somebody totally came from the beginning, recently I sat down with a lady by the name of Rieger Cortell, who has a podcast called the Weight Loss Surgery Podcast. It is on iTunes, but there's also a website, that's the link that would take you to. I did an interview where we went through every single aspect of my obesity journey, from the beginning to the end. Now this presentation is going to touch on some points before surgery, but I'm not going to go into too great a detail of all of those years beforehand. But if you're absolutely itching to hear that story, and it's an interesting story, you can go to this link right here and download that podcast. I will warn you, because I've had friends who message me like, Nikki, I love you. This podcast is 2 hours long. So if you have a commute, put me on in the commute. I will get you to work. I will get you home. Maybe you learn something, Who knows? So anyway, so if you would like to hear my full, more than you ever wanted to know story, it is available there. So where my story actually begins today is with this girl. That's me in, I would say, about June of 2009. I had surgery in January 2008. This is me in June of 2009. And if you look at this girl, you might make a couple of assumptions just based on this picture. You see her, she's smiling. She's standing next to a very cheesy looking guy who is also smiling. That's my brother, by the way. I was very proud back in the day to show off this picture because, I was big into weightlifting, so you can see sort of like a little bit of muscle tone developing in the shoulders and everything. But the biggest striking thing people notice about this picture is, and especially people who've known me all my life, I'm wearing a halter dress. For someone who went from being 350 pounds and a 48 H-cup bra to me wearing a halter dress is no small thing. So based on this picture alone, you might, in your head, assume that this girl is a pretty healthy girl. And I'm here to tell you that in a lot of different ways, that's just not true. So I identified 3 big ways that here, at 18 months post-op, Nikki just was not a very healthy person. I'm going to go over all 3, but I'm going to go into more detail in a second. So the first thing is, this girl at 18 months post-op is beginning to learn about the term food addiction and the fact that that term really, really applies to her. I really did start to notice at this point there was something that wasn't quite right about my process and that was a little bit different than other people's processes. And I was starting to struggle with what that meant. Second thing, distorted body image. Now this is the first point where I'm going to look to my weight loss surgery elders. Have you had the experience of, as you were losing weight, remember thumbs up if you can relate, thumbs down if you can't, you know, and if it's and. Have you had the experience of looking in the mirror and not really being able to see the progress? I got thumbs up. I got thumbs up because it's something so many of us go through. I had really distorted body image issues. Even in this dress, I had distorted body image issues. And then the third big thing, and I would almost put this above the food addiction thing, if you can believe it, is that I didn't really have a good why of why I was in this process. So those were three really, really big problems, three ways that I really, really, really was not exactly at the point where I would call myself healthy. So I just want to go through each one of these things and tell you a little bit more about this. Now, food addiction is a term that I find that we use a lot in the bariatric community. And I'm here to say I'm not a clinician. I'm not a psychologist. I don't even play one on TV. So I'm not going to sit here and try and define food addiction versus the propensity to go overboard or maybe a little bit of a lack of willpower. I will say that I come from a family where addiction is an issue. My mother was a alcoholic and recovering drug addict. My stepfather had addiction issues as well. And so I know that for me, the only person I really can truly speak for me, food has been, is, and probably always will be my drug of choice. And I did not use it healthfully for many, many years in my life. And even after surgery, I didn't use it healthfully for many, many reasons. Now, when you're talking about addiction, and forgive my French here, I'm not using too bad of a word, but pardon my French, but if you really want to piss an addiction off, cut off your ability to be able to practice it. That's what I did when I had bariatric surgery. I literally cut off my ability to practice my addiction. I used to shove myself with food all of the time, and it used to medicate me and keep me into a state where I couldn't feel pain, I couldn't feel happiness, I couldn't feel pain, I couldn't really feel anything. But when the food cut off with the bariatric surgery and I couldn't eat and I couldn't tolerate foods, it's like the addiction issues sort of washed over me. It's kind of hard for me to explain to people how I didn't know that I was a food addict before I had bariatric surgery. The one thing I will say is that there seems to be this assumption that anybody who has gotten to the point where they're at a place in their health where they have to have bariatric surgery is a food addict. I do not believe that that is true. From interacting with a lot of different post-ops in my life, including my friend Pam, who does not identify as a food addict, and I would agree with her. So the way that I began to realize that I was a food addict is that when I came online, the first couple of months that after bariatric surgery, I wasn't on any online communities at all. I was pretty isolated. But I began to notice that there were things that would happen to me that were just really, really hard to deal with. One of them was the fact that as soon as I wasn't able to eat anymore, almost immediately there was this voice in my head. And to sort of describe what the voice was like, it was all the time, it was constant, it was pervasive, and the voice inside my head said the following: when is it time to eat? When is it time to eat? When is it time to eat? So, the only time this voice would shut up is when I actually ate. But then 5 minutes after I ate, when is it time to eat? When is it time to eat? See, I got a thumbs up there on that one. So I thought that was, I thought it was pretty, normal at the time. But when I got online to the bariatric community, my first bariatric community that I was a part of was Obesity Help. And they have these wonderful message forums. And I began to interact with people. And I would hear people say things like, oh my gosh, I wish I didn't have to eat. I wish I didn't have to think about food. Life would be so much easier. I hate food. Oh my gosh, I'm never hungry. And so I'm looking at these people online like, who are you people? And can I be you? Because that was not my experience at all. Because I had that, when is it time to eat? All the time, every day. I never had a period in my life after surgery. And even to this day, I've gotten good at telling that voice to be a little less loud, But even to this day, it's like there's never a time when I don't want to eat. There are times when I can't eat. There's never a time when I don't want to eat. Even when I know it's going to make me sick, even if I know it's going to make me uncomfortable, even if I know that it's not what I should be doing, my brain always wants to eat. And that was part of the addiction process for me. So at the time of that picture of me 18 months post-op, I'm starting to realize the fact that there are just a lot of things about me that are just out of control with the food thing. You know, I know